What was the biggest frick up a teacher did to get fired? Female student was texting in class. Teacher confiscated the phone and looked through it, finding nude pics of the girl that she had taken for her boyfriend. The teacher emails the pics to himself. He then tried to sell the pictures to a child P site. He used his professional teacher email address when communicating with the people who run the site. That's how he was caught. Police picked him up on campus in the middle of a school day. What the frick? 60-ish-year-old band teacher at the school for like 30 years. A 17-year oboe player confessed her love to him and they had sex. She told someone and he got fired after the grapevine spread. This is so fricked up. Oboe players are never sexy. There was a teacher in my system who got fired after some kids found his online dating profile. It was so weird. He didn't talk about the profile at school, and it was clearly something he did in his private life. If I recall correctly, it wasn't even a particularly racy profile. He just wanted to meet women his age to date. Whatever. Anyway, the kids reported finding it, and the administration fired him. He successfully sued the town for wrongful termination. Justice. My old chemistry teacher told me he got fired at one school he worked at because he did a potassium-based thermite reaction on the school's new concrete courtyard. Some wind blew it over and the reaction apparently stained a large patch of concrete purple. But that sounds cool. Maybe not the biggest frick up of the thread, but one that was completely avoidable. She had open liquor bottles in her classroom office. A student saw it and told his parents, resulting in a principal search. She was escorted off the property immediately. Oh come on man. Noob mistake. Everyone knows you can get away with it if you just add Baileys to your coffee thermos at home before filling it up. He got badly drunk one night and broke into a house so he could sleep on the couch. With a stroke of complete genius, he chose the house of the chairman of the school board of governors. That's just some karma there. He was the best, most enthusiastic and nice teacher I ever had. He taught science and would talk to us about video games and stuff during break. He was doing an experiment involving fire and flammable liquid, and somehow the beaker fell over, launching, essentially, napalm all over the wall, some desks, and unfortunately a student's face. 3rd-degree burns and a good amount of mental trauma. I feel really bad for him. He was one of the nicest people I've met. Had a kid in my Spanish 1 class that was your stereotypical I'm gonna ignore and disrespect the teacher so the ladies will think I'm funny jerk. One day in the middle of the year she calls him out for the 100th time for not paying attention and gives him detention. He has an absolute fit. Gets up, gets 2 inches from this sweet, elderly lady's face, cursing so loudly his face was blood red and had saliva coming out of his mouth. In a quick second I hear the loudest smack and see this kid stumbling backwards onto a desk. I look to see the teacher's hand slightly raised in the air and her face ghost white, eyes in horror of what she had just done. The class is dead silent and she just ran out of the classroom. Didn't see her again for the rest of the year. I hope she was able to successfully claim self-defense. My elementary, grade 06, gym teacher yelled at kids for using the gym equipment and hit one of the more annoying kids. He then went on a vacation that lasted indefinitely. That's what parents say to their kids about a dog that had to be put down. My 8th grade science teacher got fired because he 1. Told an African American student to go back to prison, and 2. Was handing back tests and was returning an Asian student's test which he got a 92 on and said "Yumph, parents aren't gonna like that one too much." I feel bad for laughing at 2. Girl asked to use the bathroom, male teacher said no. She said she needed to go as it was that time of the month. He gave her a tissue and told her to prove it. She stormed out, called her mom who raised all kind of much understood heck, and he was fired within the day. Yup, he deserved to be fired for sure. That's horrific. I worked in an after-school program and a teacher aide was struggling for money and apparently did some pee on the side. No one knew until one of the parents of the kids saw her in a video and went straight to the office and reported her. She got escorted off campus with handcuffs. It was really sad because she obviously needed the extra money for school and she was really good with the kids. I don't even know if it's legal. One of my religious education teachers got caught with child pee on his computer. He also had a mannequin wearing a school uniform. If he wanted to get off to little girls in school uniforms, he could have just watched anime. A substitute teacher I had in 5th grade sent a kid to the office because the kid asked him to stop rubbing his shoulders sensually. He never showed up again. His name was, and I crap you not, Mr. Tickle. Some horrible girl was being a tit in lesson. Teacher told her to knuckle down or she wouldn't amount to anything. Her reply was that her plan was to leave school and basically be a baby making machine and sit on benefits for the rest of her life. Teacher's genius reply: Jesus Christ girl, the only way you'll get pregnant is if you get in the bath after your dad. Girl starts crying, storms out. Teacher never seen again. Bye bye Mr. Slight. That's a shame. I wish the teacher wasn't fired. Molested a bunch of young teenage boys. Teacher was male. He got more than fired. He had kids too. Poor kids didn't deserve to live with that legacy. So it wasn't really a teacher. It was a substitute, but still. So he had this really strict no phone rule. If he saw phones out, he would take it. This one girl was Snapchatting in the middle of class and he asked her repeatedly to give him her phone. She refused and continued making funny faces on her camera. Then he grabbed her arm and tried to forcefully take it, so she hid it in between her legs. Well, this was a persistent man and he really wanted the phone. Well, you can guess what happened next. Might I add, this is a Christian school. Okay fine. He was wrong. But man, some students are real C. He was a religion teacher. He kept saying if someone did something bad he would kiss them. Someone did something bad, he kissed them, and bam, he was gone. What's with religious people and being rappy? My chemistry teacher in grade 11 blew up 4 windows with a balloon. Sadly, they transferred him. What he was doing was demonstrating reactivity. Fill a balloon with hydrogen and oxygen. Poke it with a burning stick, and it goes boom. Fill it with hydrogen and chlorine. Then either poke it or shine a laser at it, much more boom. Now, use hydrogen and fluorine. Well, fluorescent lighting will set that off, and it'll blow crap up. When he released the last balloon, on a cold, dark winter morning, in the middle of the school courtyard, he hadn't first checked if his laser worked. So the balloon kept drifting, right up to the windows of a 4th floor classroom that had students inside and the lights on. Boom. He barged into the girls' locker room in middle school and said that he mistook it for the boys' locker room. But that didn't explain why he wanted to stand in our tiny locker room and watch people change anyway. He had done other creepy stuff before, like asking girls to do stretches while he stared at them, among other things. He also had anger issues. I have no idea where my school found that guy. Coach Pay teacher at my school got fired because he'd come into the girls' locker room and do creepy stuff to the girls. We had a substitute student teacher for a few weeks back in grade school who taught us the wrong way to identify prime numbers. I don't remember exactly how she fricked it up or what she had us doing wrong, but when our real teacher came back and told us to throw out our study guides, we never saw the new lady again. To be fair, he didn't get fired. He killed himself in the science store. Affair with another teacher got out. He was married with kids. I never knew him or was taught by him, but it was awful. An art teacher was playing a game with students where you spread your hand and take a sharp instrument, an X-Acto knife in this case, and stab the spaces between the fingers. He stabbed a student's hand. Then 2 years ago, same school, a choir teacher referred to a black student as the N-word in front of a group of students before a choir concert at Christmas time. After she was reported, she tried to join the teachers union she had previously decided not to join. Needless to say, she couldn't retroactively join and they didn't want to defend her repulsive actions. I know of more that they should have fired but weren't. Nothing that would physically hurt students, but bad behavior just the same. Not my story but my husband's. A female teacher at his high school had a relationship with one of his classmates. He bragged, someone told, and she was fired and sent to jail. I'm pretty sure I heard that they still ended up together after all that. The teacher had multiple guns in the trunk of his car, unlocked car, within 100 feet of a middle school. I guess it's not particularly unusual for rural schools, but this is in a Los Angeles school. Dude was led off campus in handcuffs. Male teacher gave his phone to a girl in class to show a picture of his cat. It turns out his dog and a cat look nothing alike. He wanted to show her pictures of pee and got mixed up. Honest mistake. Had sex with a girl whose father had just passed away. There had been rumors that he had had sex with numerous students, but once he went after this girl, it raised some flags that he was a true predator and not just a frisky guy who liked 16-year age of consent and older girls. Invite kids from his class to his house for sleepovers and let them do drugs. Rumors were that other stuff also went on. No crap. He's going to say to himself they'll just sleep over and then do some drugs. But I'll stop there. That's a nice place to stop and make sure it doesn't get any worse. A slightly mentally challenged black kid poked the teacher's mug which had a gold rim and said shiny. The teacher then replied, "En in the hood get shot for that kind of crap." What the frick? Our English 4 teacher had sex with 8 students and my friend Dylan was the lucky guy to be the dad. This happened senior year, and last time I talked to Dylan he told me they agreed that he didn't have to pay child support if he was part of the kid's life. He used to live with her for a bit, but then he felt it was awkward being fresh out of high school living with someone who planned on going back to grad school. This teacher we will call A4 now. She was straight out of college and really connected with the seniors a lot more than her co-workers. Towards the end of senior year she started to throw parties at her apartment. She paid for our booze and well, a lot of my classmates started spreading the word. Well, one thing led to another. I talked to some of my old friends about it and how fricked up it really is. Looking back, my fiend had this idea that maybe when A went to high school she was nerdy and unattractive. So when she started working there and found some students attractive she went for it. About A, she was a quirky woman who had a hipster style about her. She was about 5'6", short dark hair, hipster glasses and always wore tight dresses. Honesty like an 8/10. Her teaching wasn't bad at all, but her problem was her kindness. Some students took advantage of that and we really ended up having a free hour in the middle of the school day. That sucks. Like really sucks. My freshman chemistry teacher got caught banging a student and had a bunch of Polaroids of her. If you could picture a small town, totally socially awkward chemistry teacher, he is probably what you'd expect. Slightly long hair, tang polyester tight polos everyday, pants just about a ½ inch too short, thin frame with a little round belly, thick rimmed brown glasses, and black or brown orthopedic shoes. At the time he was around 45 and I would have thought he was a virgin. This student was a nerdy band girl, would have never expected it. Looking back, she was actually kind of cute. It seriously sent shockwaves through the school. He ended up serving a little jail time, then went on the sex offenders registry. 3 years later at graduation the female student was voted teacher's pet for our senior superlatives. Kids are savage. Haha. A girl lost her father to a long and hard fight with cancer. Teacher pulls her aside a few days later, before class, and says, "It's such a relief that your dad has died. Now you can finally focus more on your studies. If technology ever gives us the capability to strangle people through the internet, I'll be damned if that first teacher wouldn't be my primary target." Well, she wasn't fired but put on leave. When people were talking she would scream 1, 2, 3, stop. Nobody stopped. So she yelled, like a big screech, and everyone would shut up. Her nickname was Freezer because she had the same voice as the Dragon Ball character Freezer. She went on leave with nervous breakdown. My class was ruthless. Sounds like my grade 10 science teacher. Although we put that poor woman through heck, I still feel bad about it. Our old history teacher, probably in his early 70s, was a chaperone on one of those take your class on a tour of Europe trips. He had too much to drink and groped one of the female students. Rightfully so, he got fired, which is too bad that he behaved like that because he was a hilarious guy and a bit of a legend around the school. The guy they replaced his with was a 350-pound dude who decided to hold sing-alongs rather than teach. His replacement was a college student who brought in his friend in the Ku Klux Klan to do a QA session. It would have been interesting, but KKK man was a complete dumbass who couldn't defend any of his ideology. He kept his job since he could coach basketball. Ah, yes, the old joke from my history classes at college. Half of all the history teachers in the US have same first name, Coach. A student, male, forgot his textbook, so the teacher, also male, made him take his shirt off because showing up without your book is like showing up to school without your clothes. It was an all guys class but still weird as crap. Hey, biggest frick up I've seen recently was a teacher who yanked a student out of a desk, wasn't even her classroom, because she had on a hoodie, and we can't wear hoodies in school. Someone was recording and she got fired and we never saw her again. At one school I attended, the band director assaulted a kid because the kid was having trouble learning a particularly hard song. At the school I graduated from, the woodshop teacher just went postal and beat the ever-loving crap out of a kid in the bathroom. That was about 8 years ago. Woodshop isn't taught there anymore because of that incident, but the woodshop room still has half-finished projects, piles of sawdust, and tools laying around. I doubt it will ever get cleaned up. A kid I graduated high school with was a band teacher. He was Snapchatting a 13-year-old student and kept demanding nudes. It got to the point that Y kept demanding them and threatened her that if she didn't send them, he'd post them on social media. Butthole got caught when the girl went to her parents and told them what was going on. Looking back, it totally makes sense why my male friends would pretty much not let any girl in our friend group be alone with him. He definitely gave off a creep vibe and obviously it was way worse than I thought it was. I feel so sorry for that young girl who had to go through that. I'm going to post the pictures you don't send me to social media. His logic is bad and he should feel bad. Semi-related because it didn't get him fired, but should have absolutely would today. Around first grade I was in after school choir and our teacher was leading us in line to the buses to go home. In this school when the class had to travel from point A to point B it was always in single file line and on silence, aka one hand behind your back, other hand with a finger over your mouth and no talking. Quite often there'd be someone who doesn't stay silent though, and this time it was some black girl. If I recall correctly she wasn't even trying to hide it, being pretty loud. I don't recall if he had told her to stop talking before or not, but suddenly like the crack of a whip the teacher spun around and slapped the frick out of this girl while yelling shut up along with it. Apparently this was some kind of subconscious reflex and not on purpose because he immediately turned pale white and his eyes opened massively wide like he was in complete disbelief of what he had just done. Immediately went into nurturing parent mode with his physical gestures, bent down to eye level, lightly holding shoulder etc, apologizing and asking if she's okay. Her facial expression was both angry and shock while holding the slapped cheek. Her, I'm telling my mom, face while holding cheek. Him, good, please do or else I will. I'm so sorry. Nothing ever came from it that I'm aware of. This was in the early 90s when it was normal for students to be sent to the principal to be spanked. I assume that's why he wasn't canned. During high school, an elderly teacher put a lollipop in a 17-year-old girl's hoodie and said, "Some things are meant to stay in little girls." The dude got fired 2 months after he started teaching at the school. I heard he was also really sexist and made racist remarks in class. My English teacher went to Thailand. We were in a private school in Europe and he is American. For a job search. Back then he was renting an apartment from a rich student's family. The police asked the student for the key and raided the teacher's house. They found few 10,000s of child pornography, half of which was all boys. He got fired and the news was that he had to be forced back to US, but all he got was a year of in-house suspension. Grounded, like when you can't leave about 50 meters your property. My middle school teacher was so nice that everyone made fun of him for it. So much so that he was fired because he couldn't contain his students. Being a teacher sounds like a dang hard job. I've got mad respect for all teachers out there. Had a teacher like this one in my senior year of high school. The things only worsened when he said he is virgin and living with his parents in the middle of his 40s. Not a teacher but a sub. The school was having a practice lockdown and 2 kids wouldn't shut up. He told them that if there was a real shooter he wouldn't mind if the 2 of them were shot. The sub was yelked off the school grounds by the principal. If there was a shooter, I'm pretty sure they would have got shot along with the rest of the class for not being quiet. I was hanging around some old friends from high school and they asked me if I knew about Mr. and Mrs. Coach. Apparently they both had a fetish for girls showering in the locker room. The Mrs. would record them and share them with her husband. One of the girls got wise and ratted them out. Both were fires of course, but I don't know if any criminal charges were filed. Oh yeah, I have another. I started a new university and worked as a student worker and was constantly around the deans. They were gossiping about how many people were let go over the last semester. I inquired and they were flabbergasted that I didn't already know. Backstory is the football team really sucks and they don't offer sports scholarships. So in order to encourage students to come to the school, the coaches started club for the cheerleaders and they would have sex with the potential athletes visiting. Well, crap finally hit the fan when the secret of the club came out and a large portion of the professors and deans knew about it. They had to replace almost half of the faculty and the head dean was replaced. The guy who was supposed to be my math teacher freshman year was replaced just a couple weeks before school began because the student he fricked the previous school year turned him in before leaving for college. Presumably because he didn't want to continue the relationship. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.